Hello and welcome to the Family Business. I'm Joe Castiglione Jr. alongside Isaac Stoops. We're here at Sooner Scoop HQ in historic Norman, Oklahoma, where it's 90 degrees and it's October. It's extremely disgusting. It is not very fun. But you know what is fun? Women's basketball is right around the corner. We had Coach Jennie Baranczyk in studio today, and Isaac can talk a little bit about it too, but there's a reason her players love her.
Yeah, I mean, she's definitely the right person for the job. Like, we were ready to run through a brick wall for her in studio, and she's really funny. Definitely one of my favorite guests that we've had on so far. Just a lot of energy, and it was just honestly just a really good time.
Oh, no, it's fantastic. And the way she just talked about things, I thought we got a little deep a little bit there for a minute, too. Talked about her team, talked about Oklahoma, talked about women's basketball as a whole and how it's growing. I mean, I was excited. I mean, they start soon, and it's really exciting. Men's basketball alongside with it, too. But it's really a great time to be here in Norman, Oklahoma. You know what else is a great time? To rep Home Field Apparel. Home Field Apparel is the official OU apparel sponsor of SoonerScoop.com. If you head over to homefieldapparel.com, use code SCOOP, you're going to get 15% off your first order. It's a heck of a deal because they just released these pullovers, 80s, 90s, that oozes nostalgia and comfort.
Yeah.
They just released, and they're fantastic. As you can see there at the top left corner, they got the schooner on the sleeve. I mean,
with as hot as it's been in Oklahoma, weather being so unpredictable, I'd get it now just because, you know, the cold's coming. It's going to come out of nowhere.
That, if there's any indication for the pass drops, it's going to sell out.
Yeah,
and so,
that's true.
And they will hopefully restock if that is the case. But you also can get the bomber jacket too. I know we've worn a number of their shirts on the show. It's good stuff.
Coach's jacket's still super popular.
You want to wear the stuff, is what I'm saying. When you wear it, you don't want to come out of it. You can sleep in it. You can run in it. You can rep it on a game day. So be forward thinking and thinking, hey, let's get the pullover right now. They just dropped. Head over to homefieldapparel.com. Use code SCOOP. You're going to get 15% off. I'm telling you, I'm looking at them right now. I'm buying one. They're so cool. I'm going to pray for when it's cold, and I'll be ready when it happens. And we're getting ready for college basketball season. Coach Jennie was in the studio, like we said. Fantastic interview. You're going to want to watch this one multiple times. I'm telling you, if you're feeling a little bit down about your day, you're feeling a little bit down about this or that, watch the interview because you're going to feel good. I had goosebumps a couple times. Don't say that often. But we're going to take you to the interview right now with head women's basketball coach Jennie Baranczyk. We now welcome in head women's basketball coach at the University of Oklahoma Sooners, Coach Jennie Baranczyk. Thanks for coming into the studios.
Take two. You got it. You nailed it. You totally nailed it.
I'm going to take a bow. I did have to double check. I ran in there, asked the famous George Stoya, this is right? He's like, yeah, okay, good. I'm like, the last thing I want to do is screw this up.
Well, that's how my intro went at SEC Media Days. So Sankey introduces every coach. And so right before he went up, I was like, don't butcher my last name. And he turned around with like a full-on panic. And he's like, well, how do you say it? And I said, well, guess. And so he says it. And I was like, close enough. He's like, I don't need all the Oklahomans mad at me. And I was like, well, they can't say it either. They're Southern. It's all right. It's close enough. But you nailed it.
Take one.
We're not asked, we wasn't asked to spell it. So
yeah, exactly.
I did Google the spelling too before. I mean, this is our second real introduction, of course, of seeing you and been at the games, but we did spend some time at the kids table at SEC meeting days.
That's right. That's right. You got shunned down there. Well, you just kind of got put in places.
I
and you
know,
didn't realize how lucky you were going to be.
Correct. I know how great I'm grateful and lucky I was just to be there. I was a tag along that trip. I wasn't even supposed to make the trip. I just changed my flight. Ended up sleeping in bunk beds with my parents' room, and it was fantastic. I did both the top and the bottom bunk.
Nice.
I wanted to make sure that they were both good. I'm going to get them installed in my house, too. It was a lot of fun.
So much room for activities.
Exactly.
Step Brothers.
Yeah.
No, it was awesome. But, yeah, we got stuck at the kids' table.
I was parenting. I wasn't necessarily just sitting at the kids' table. You were participating in the kids' table, but my children were there.
That was one of those experiences, though. I'm a very boisterous person, I would say. But I was just listening because I just wanted to soak everything up. You guys were chatting and listening to the other tables.
It was like you were listening to the other tables. I don't think you were trying to listen to
espionage, for the University of Oklahoma. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But
But you did get to experience my daughter trash talking the Texas president. So that was benefit to you.
I did. I thought I
Yes.
wish I could have got that on video.
Yeah.
We could have done that with the montage of her being mic'd up as well.
Yeah.
She's
And
gonna have quite
he
the
was
holiday.
being nice. He was being nice to come over and to say hello. And she's like, why would we want to talk to you?
Yeah.
You know, most 10-year-old girls would say that, but
It's a fair question.
We're
You
special.
think the University of Oklahoma and Texas would not like each other, but then they are like really friendly, and you're like, this is kind of odd.
yeah, exactly.
It is, but
exactly.
there's a lot of excitement around women's basketball. You know, they broke a number of viewership records last year, even in the regular season. You know, prominent figures like Caitlin Clark, you know, South Carolina's team, and, you know, even your team. What have you seen from the explosion from women's basketball last year kind of continue into this year?
Well, I think the unique part is obviously name, image, and likeness, right? All the bad things that you get, it's really elevated our sport. It's made Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese household names. You know, I mean, when Skip Johnson's telling you that he's talking about women's basketball in a deer stand, you know you've got something going right? But honestly, no, I think not only that, but where the WNBA is placed. It's placed in the off season, right? So it just finished last couple days ago, and so I think it's just really propelling into this season. So it's a sport that is extremely dynamic. It's a sport that we've all loved for a really long time, but through that platform, I really feel like it's been able to elevate the game. And what Caitlin's done, what Angel's done, and then to have the history that we've had before that, we just haven't had the viewership. Now we're getting both. It's pretty phenomenal to see where we're going.
With NIL, you know, being so new and, you know, the landscape constantly changing, you know, like in football, it has been, you know, somewhat regarded in a negative light at times just because it's hard to control and they need guardrails. And like you said, it elevated your sport. How do you, as a coach, how do you manage that with your team, you know, inside the locker room?
Well, I think, you know, part of it's life, and we have to understand life. We have to understand not everybody gets the same, you know, not everybody is getting what you think. Outside, you know, you don't always get to know what somebody else is doing, thinking, saying, any of that. Young people today have a lot to manage. This isn't necessarily something that is really helpful to manage because you're managing what other people think more than really the reality of what's happening. So I think that's where if we can portray name, image, likeness in the right way, that can get your team to really gel. It's when we start listening to outside things, and that's how it's always been. It's just more prevalent now because it can be on your phone anywhere you go at any point. And so I think for the most part, none of us like what we don't want it to be, but we like what it should be. And I think that's the trouble. It
does, like Isaac alluded to a little bit too, it does seem kind of in some of the sports such as women's basketball, it has been an extremely positive thing. And of course, behind closed doors, there's going to be negatives, confrontations, and stuff like that. But it's been such a positive thing because it's amplified people like Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, I mean, even others in other women's sports because they've made them more household names. Do you think that's the case? Let me rephrase that. Do you think that's the case because it's amplified those names and amplified the sport, why it's kind of viewed as a more positive light in women's basketball than maybe men's basketball or football?
Well, unfortunately, I don't think women's basketball is as far behind men's basketball and football as maybe everybody thinks. But I think the more that we talk about it being positive, the better it's going to actually be. I think in those examples, that's what NIL is made for, right? That's the whole purpose, is to be able to elevate these college athletes that are doing some amazing things. What's ugly about it is now you're quote unquote negotiating, right? You've turned, you know, I feel like even as a women's basketball coach, you have to completely change what you're doing. I love coaching basketball. I love that part. Right now, I feel like you have to fundraise, right? You're negotiating. You're trying to figure out what the NCAA is going to do, what the federal government's going to do in terms of, okay, what does a salary cap look like? What is collective bargaining? You know, so you're trying to educate yourself on all these things that when I took the job a few years ago, that didn't exist, right? And then not to mention, especially for our female athletes, now you got to start thinking, okay, you're kind of a publicist too, right? How do they carry themselves? Because it's really quick. You say one wrong thing and all of a sudden you're toast. Right. And so that's something that we are trying to really navigate, is that holistic view, even though we don't know. But I will tell you this, as coaches, as much as that's difficult to manage, we crave being motivated. We crave having things nip at our heels and have to grow and expand and learn. We're in this chaotic period of time. And I'll tell you what, we've got some great leaders here that we can really lean on. And I think that's been, I mean, your dad's been an incredible leader, visionary, not just in this area, but in so many areas. And it's pretty phenomenal to be able to talk to different coaches, former coaches, and your dad, because people here still want what's best for everybody.
It's been obviously an exciting time in Norman with the potential new arena, being proposed, and the Young Family Athletic Center. What's that kind of been like in the last year? I mean, obviously with the sport growing as it is.
Well, I think youth sports in general probably need a new overhaul, right? And we're living in it right now. I mean, I'm living in that with, I have a 12-year-old, a 10-year-old, and a 7-year-old. And so we're right in the middle of that. And I can tell you it's been awesome to be able to provide opportunity at YFAC, the Young Family Athletic Center. And honestly, I don't even know if the people of Norman really knew how much that would be utilized and how we already need more space. Yeah. And so it's been really neat to be able to see, I got to experience when I go see my own children there, but also we had a live evaluation period. And so what that means is all these teams from all over the country came in and they played in this tournament, and all the hotels are sold out. You're going up and down. It's a different restaurants and they're sold out of food. It's great. It's an incredible economic impact for our city, just one weekend. So imagine what football weekends do, right? Imagine what we can do building an entire entertainment district where, I want my family to grow up like you guys did, where you love this place, you want to stay here, but you want it to continue to grow and evolve and get better. And you need more than just a sports weekend. You need more, we need more. We need more arts. We need more young professionals to just die to come here. And I think we have this incredible people already that I think now when we start to continue to grow, it's going to be amazing how many people want to continue to come here.
You have such a unique perspective because, of course, you're the coach, but like you said, you have kids, right, and you're participating in those tournaments. You're evaluating potential players in those tournaments. So you have such a unique perspective on the growth and, the potential things that the arena can do. Your daughter, Jordy, went viral a couple years ago when they mic'd her up on ESPN for the tournament. Is there any plan for a Jordy cam this year? Can we talk to ESPN Plus?
Honest to God. So I'm not like huge on social media. In fact, they kind of make me post, right? And so when I would have never said yes. Honest to God, I never would have said yes. What I said was, we're sitting there before the game, and they're asking, and we were playing at UCLA, and everything's open, and I'm like, no, our team, it's our team. Like we're still trying to build it. So we don't need everything. We don't need everybody to know everything. Right. And so they come up to me and cause they asked about my kids. I was like, oh, my son just yells at the refs. My daughter basically yells at me. And then my youngest is like here for concessions. Right. And so I'm like, whatever, right? And so I say that. And so they come up the next day and they said, okay, well, a young woman on the other team, her brother played on the men's team. And so they're going to mic him up. Can we just, mic up your daughter? It'd be fun to have her yell at you. I'm like, oh, I don't know, but anyway, they did. I had no idea. And my husband goes, how do you not know? And I'm like, well, I'm working. So I don't know what our children are doing. And for the love of God, clearly you don't either.
You cut some loose.
I mean, goodness sakes. And so, so anyway, she goes so viral. My phone's blowing up after the game. I'm not happy. We just lost. It was hard. It was like we had the coolest senior class of all time. It was just all the things. And my phone, I'm like, oh my gosh, like something is going on. Well, it didn't really hit me until Good Morning America called me. Oh. And then I was like, oh. Well, and then, the Final Four is in Dallas. And so Iowa went. It was the first time that Lisa Bluter, the head coach, had gone. Well, I was on Lisa's first team. Okay, so our first team got together. We go down there. And so I'm like, well, how cool would that be for her to go see the national championship game? Well, we go. Well, that's like on everyone's algorithm, right? Was her.
Oh yeah.
So the number of people that came up and they're like, Jordy, and she was like, oh my God. I mean, she was freaked out. Yeah. But it was pretty impactful because she doesn't have social media. She didn't even know.
She has no idea what's
going on.
She had
no idea
That's kind of
until
the best
everyone
thing about it.
Well, Yeah. I mean, and then it was funny because she's like, why do people from Iowa know me? I'm like, well, you are from there. I mean, it's, like I get that. And then she'd be like, well, that's an LSU person. That's a South Carolina person. Like, why do they know? And I'm like, okay, let's just, please don't give the scout on their team. You know what I mean? Just don't say anything bad. Just cheer for everybody.
I love how much questions she asks about it.
Oh,
like,
my
why
gosh.
this? Why that? Why this? Why that? Why them?
Yeah.
You know what's really funny now? And these are things obviously I can't really talk about, but I'm getting grilled at home right now on our recruiting.
Oh, by her?
By her. Full names. Who are we going against? Why would she even be looking at this school? To the point that we had a young woman come, and we're on campus and she had a younger sister. And so the next day we're talking about it and she goes, yeah, I mean, I told her she shouldn't go to this school because so-and-so's a ball hog and this person's going to take her. And I was like, oh my God, she's trash talking her sister. So yeah.
Apple trees grow apples.
Unfortunately she says what I think, but normally I really try to keep it in.
She's tampering, but she's
allowed
to.
I know. God, thank God she doesn't have a phone.
Yeah, no kidding.
Just wait a few years.
She's on Twitter like Josie is.
Yeah,
just
exactly.
spewing out.
Yeah, she's going to get me in trouble just like you get your dad in trouble. Thank God we don't have the same name.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
You would still not believe how many people think my Twitter's my dad's Twitter.
Oh, I can believe it.
I mean, just look at the profile picture. I understand. But
it's the mustache.
It is. It is
Yeah,
the mustache.
it's the mustache, I think.
And we do sound alike. I've heard, too, a lot of the mannerisms.
Some of the mannerisms, yeah.
It's the gold chain. You should get him one.
With the fedora, now we're talking.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. He's totally missing out.
The ideas are being cooked up in my mind.
Yeah. You alluded to it earlier, with the, youth basketball growing and, and everything. Have you kind of seen that excitement in your youth camps and in the leagues that you follow? I mean, even your daughter playing in some?
Yeah. You know what's been really cool is seeing the jerseys in little girls, and then the other thing I think that's really neat is, when you used to go to a game, right? And brother or sisters playing, older brother or sisters playing, the kids go out at half, like between every dead play, right? They're out there shooting, and it used to only be boys. Now it's boys and girls. I mean, my youngest daughter, at a softball game, they're playing soccer on the side. You didn't used to see that, right? Girls were supposed to do something, the boys go play. Now you're seeing boys and girls do that. But then you go to the mall. I mean, how many Caitlin Clark jerseys do you see places, right? Like how many Oklahoma jerseys do you see places? I mean, it's been pretty incredible. Last night we had a really cool event, the one-on-one event. And again, this is where the NIL platform is really cool, to be able to watch how many different families come in with their kid's jersey, right? Or a t-shirt that has their name on the back, or, watching random fan be able to come in and be like, oh, I've been watching Skylar Van since however long. And I'm, finally got her jersey. I finally got her shirt. And so you get to see that. So to me, those are the things that have been so great to be able to see, is that these young girls are falling in love with sports. And we have to just do a better job of being able to allow them to fail, allow them to fall down, allow them to really learn the sport. But I think that's been pretty cool to see.
First time since 2010 that you actually the program is ranked in the top 10 heading into the season. With the increased fan support and the continued building of NIL, do you think everything's heading in the right direction here at Oklahoma with that? I mean, of course, we want more fans to attend the game, but
100%.
do you think it's heading in the...
Yeah, well, and I get asked this question actually quite a bit, and especially in recruiting, right? What do you really think? Where do you really think we're going to go? And one of the things that I think that is so special about Oklahoma is there was such an incredible foundation of culture before I got here. So, I think that the women in that locker room are special. I think they're unique. I think they're connected to the program. You look at the alumni that continue to give shout outs on social media or give their support. And that's hard to do, especially when you've had one coach that was here for so long. And Sherry's been amazing. It's been a great relationship between the two of us. I think that's really important. But our values are in alignment. And so it's really easy to be able to come in when you have such an incredible foundation to continue to build on that. Because when you have that great kind of a culture, you attract more players that want to be part of that. And so I also think it's a huge reflection of Oklahoma people. We're good people, but we're not we're not afraid to roll up our sleeves and get to work. And that's what we want to do. We're going to do it with great humility. We're going to work really hard, and we're going to have a lot of fun doing it. So I think no question is this program heading in the right direction, but the women in the locker room are the ones that are leading it.
I think that's an underrated aspect of Norman. Like, you know, you talked about the growth earlier. Like, what Norman is now compared to like when we grew up is just like, it's incredibly different. And I think it's a testament to our fans and the people here, just how good all of our sports teams have been for so long, and the culture, you know, even through down years. Like, we've just remained consistent. And so that's why when people are like, you grew up in Norman, they act like it's a small town. I'm like, I love Norman. And like, come visit. You'll have a good time on any game day. I don't, you know, doubt, like, I don't know why you want to deal with traffic or whatever you have to deal with. And OKC's growing, you know, exponentially too. So it's really fun to see.
No, and I agree. And I think the other thing to me that's so special is the culture of the coaches. And I think obviously we have great leadership with your dad, but you know, you're talking about all of us want football to win. We all do. We want men's basketball to be so great. We want softball to win another national championship. We want women's gymnastics. I mean, what Ryan Hibble's doing with golf right now, I mean, it's incredible. So you get this small town feel with a lot of people, right? And then you have these incredible coaches that have built these programs in different ways. You know, who doesn't want to, you know, have a conversation with Skip Johnson? I mean, you might miss every sixth word or whatever, but like, you know, you can stay there. I mean, you can kind of stay with him a little longer, but you know, I have really fallen in love with the people, but also the people I get to work beside and cheer for. You know, I don't think that we're competitive with each other. I think everybody wants everybody to do really well. And you don't get that at places. You know, the number of times I say that to people, I'm like, most of my colleagues don't get along with their men's basketball coach, right? They're it's in constant competition. And I can't tell you, there is not a person out there that wants them to be more successful than I do. And I feel like the feeling's mutual. I mean, Porter has been great. You know, I mean, you got to see us. We kind of have a lot of fun together, right? We banter a little bit. Now, that's where you were sitting on the external seat, right? You had to kind of sit on the ground. It was something like that. Or maybe in the bathroom. I don't remember.
Yeah, I was sitting on like the jump seat or something, et cetera, in the plane. But I don't think I said more than 10 words that entire time. I was just
in all fairness, Porter can talk, and so can Brent.
Exactly. So
I don't know if I did either.
Exactly. So you get them all together and you talk.
I wanted to be a fly on the wall for that flag.
And that's exactly what I was doing. I was just sitting there soaking up, hearing everything because, they just go back and forth. And you hear a lot of things that, you kind of, have gone along during the season or during the portal area and just hear all those stories. And you're like, okay, that checks out. And just exchanging those thoughts. And it's exciting. I mean, when you came in, of course, I'm sure when Big Joe interviewed you, you laid out a blueprint. You saw what this program could be. And you want to tick off certain boxes, and some may not tick off and some may. But do you think, in your first 3 years and head into year 4, do you feel like the program as a whole is, on schedule in your head and then kind of achieve some of those things that you went to in the first year?
Well, my blueprint didn't include going to the SEC, so I wasn't in on that. No, but, and it's also really funny. So, you think about this whole like interview process, right? Like most people have, where it's like, okay, you talk to somebody 1 time, 2 times, it's a 7, your dad treats it like, it's like the Secret Service, like there's a lot, like he goes to everybody and he's very thorough. And the first time I actually kind of talked with Oklahoma, I was like, no way, who the hell wants to follow Sherry Cole? No, nobody, right? And then clearly here I am. But he is very invested in what he's doing. And, and at that time he was doing both searches for us and for men's basketball. So there was a lot going on, but, you have an idea. I think the thing that I really value was the 9 years before that got you ready for this, because I fell on my face. When I was first hired as a head coach at Drake, I was 2 weeks from my due date with Eli, my son. And so it's and you guys don't know this yet, But in terms of parenting, like you're so prepared to be a parent until you become one, right? And then you're awful, right? You know, and then you go to parent teacher conferences and you realize how awful you actually are, right? But honestly, and so you kind of feel that way as a head coach. You feel like, okay, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to, you know, this is what I'm going to do. And I fell on my face, and you had to learn and you had to grow, and then you have to get to that top of that mountain. You know, I think we were, you know, I was there for 9 years, and a few years in, you competed for your first conference championship and you fell. And then, you know, 5 years in, you're setting records and we're doing what's never been done. And then we keep, you know, then you're at the top of the mountain. And so then what, right? Mm-hmm. And you have to be there to realize there's a whole other mountain range behind it. And then you keep growing and you keep growing and you keep growing. So I think that really enabled me to get here and be like, okay, what's the most important thing now? Right? So as much as you can have a plan, you still have to be really flexible. You still have to be able to adjust. There's a lot more people that you get to work with, right? It's a bigger athletic department. It's a brand. And I think sometimes people here forget the Oklahoma brand, you know, and that's where having that experience, I think, really helped. I think last year's season, you know, we fell on our face. And instead of panicking, we just said, you know what, we got to work. And we had a group of women that looked in the mirror and said, okay, let's just work. Let's just get better. That's it. And then all of a sudden you realize at the end of the season, because when you're in it, you can't see it. And because you're just in it and you're in it and you're in it and you're in it. And it was amazing that all of a sudden one shot goes in and all of a sudden you're conference champs. You know, and then now you've got to go into the SEC where there's a lot of people that have been conference champs. And you know, we're ranked 10th, but there's also 4 of us in the top 10. And so this is a whole different level. In the Big 12, you know, you could really know that you could compete. In the SEC, you have to compete. And I think there's going to be a little bit of a difference in that.
You've had a lot of success competing so far. Obviously, that's brought up your name in, you know, some prominent coaching searches, but ultimately you signed an extension with us. And, what do you think that you can build here or are already building, and how big can it get?
Well, one of my favorite things here is the longevity of people staying. This isn't a place that you leave. You know, this is a destination spot. And I think that's probably what you guys grew up thinking was Norman is a hot destination for people, right?
It's all we knew.
Yeah. That's right. But I think it's underestimated, but I also think that's me. You know, I'm fine. I can be underestimated. I don't need to be in any kind of a spotlight. I want our players to. I want my kids to grow up as normal as possible, right? Did you guys turn out okay?
They're not all right.
Sort of.
Hope so.
I mean,
viewers
again,
can leave it in the comments.
Exactly.
They might have a different opinion.
Exactly. But you know, but that's what you want. And I don't think people understand power of community, because people here want to do, you know, they want you to do well. They want to be part of it. And so to me, it's more than whether or not our fan base gets mad if you win or you lose, or we feel like we should have, you know, done something different on offense or done something different on defense. And quite honestly, we're all supposed to be the armchair quarterback, right? Like, that's life. Trust me, I can coach everybody else's team way better than my own. And just like you can parent other people's kids, right? It's really easy to do that until you're in it and you do it. But I do think that sometimes social media, like, we get really loud, but you know, we're at the football game, right? And none of us have ever seen what happened in that first 5 minutes, ever. And yet you start looking around and people stayed. And they stayed. And you know what? We need to stay. And that's exactly how I feel in our program, that it's not just because we're winning that people are coming to the games. I really don't believe that. I believe that they know that they have an impact and they feel part of it. And so people are going to continue to feel more and more part of it as time goes, that this is their team. And so that's where I think you look at what softball's been able to do, and you look at the investment of the people in the stands. I mean, they're in it. And that's what you want. And so I think that's what, you know, that's what this place has that I think is really special, and I think it can grow. And, you know, I don't really care if your name's in a search. It doesn't matter. I just think this place can be pretty darn special.
And something it seems like you've actually done a really good job of portraying it to is, you know, recruiting and girls in the transfer portal. I mean, and roster retention too. That because I mean, that's the name of the game these days. But you've done a really good job of finding players in the transfer portal that make impact and seem to fit into your culture. What's been the key to that? I mean, you pulled, Peyton Bellhurst, of course, Reagan Beers is the one from last year, Lexi Keys, and have done such a good job of fitting into your programs on and off the court. What's been the key to that? I mean, don't have to reveal any secrets.
No, I mean, we're not, there aren't secrets. There's no secrets anymore. That's what it feels like, right? No, I think, here's the thing. One, it's been a challenge to manage an extra COVID year because you're fitting 5 years into 4. So that's a challenge for roster management, right? So there's a lot of players on our team. Nobody gets to play as much as they want to play. Or even quite honestly deserve to play. There just aren't enough minutes in the game. I mean, trust me, this year is going to be one of the hardest years to keep everybody happy because we are really deep. And it's been really fun to be able to watch everybody develop. I still feel like we want to build this with 4-year players. We still want to be able to recruit the state of Oklahoma first. That's got to be really important. It's got to be a central focus for us. And the women that have come in our program, there's reasons that they're coming into our program. There's reasons that they're in the transfer portal. And they're really high character people. And we've just been really lucky. A lot of it, Peyton, I offered Peyton when she was in 7th grade and she used to wear goggles, like sport goggles, like she was legit, right? And so she used to come to our camps. And so I've known her for a really long time. So it's been fun to be able to see her really grow and develop. Obviously Lexi Keys was an Oklahoma player that wanted to come. I mean, Aubrey Jones is another one that I knew from Iowa. And then Reagan Beers was a whole different situation. She actually had looked at Oklahoma prior to me even getting here. So she knew that she wanted to do something different. That's hard. I mean, she's at Oregon State. All of a sudden in a couple months, it's like, bam, everything changes in a direction you don't want it to change. I mean, they had 8 people leave. That's hard. But they went to an Elite 8. And that's hard. That's where you start to realize the reality of sport isn't always in your control. So she was not somebody that was just dying to leave. She was somebody that left by those circumstances. And thank goodness she had a really good taste of Oklahoma before. And then we really she fits exactly what we need. And so from a culture standpoint, for sure. From an on-court standpoint, no question.
I feel like Sooner fans have been gravitated towards your style of play. How would you describe that to the common viewer?
Well, and it's fun, and this is the question. It's fun. It's funny because everyone, you go to SEC Media Day and they're like, "Oh, you can't do that in the SEC," and I'm like, you don't even really know what we do, because I think a lot of people think that we just go up and down, and we do. We want a nice pace in the game, like that's 100%. But what I think is really underestimated about our style of play, and this is the style of play that we've had for years, are 2 things. One, I think the way that we pass the ball, and trust me, you come to practice and we are not good passers, but we have a lot of work to do. But the willingness to share it is what people fall in love with in sport, right? Especially in the sport of basketball, the ability to set people up, and it's a flow and it's a team game. And so, we've been, even my years at Drake and here, we're top 3, top 1 in the nation in terms of assists per game. And that you can see that. Yeah. When you do that, your field goal percentage goes up a little bit because you're willing to make that. And so you score a lot more points. And so that's something that when you score and you play at that pace, it's really fun to watch, and it makes you feel, a significant part. The other part of that I think that's really important is that we play a lot of people. And so you play a lot of people, then you want to play at a certain pace. Then you get tired, you come out, you sub in, you're happy that you're coming out, and you're happy and you want someone to do really well when you're going in. Yeah. So it starts to really build your chemistry. So you want off-court and on-court chemistry, because I don't care. We all say, oh, it's a business. Who cares if you like each other outside? Yeah, I get that, but it's way better. It's way better when you really do love and care about each other when you're on that floor. And that's something that our team has done a great job of, and you can see it. But the byproduct of that is the scoring and the assists.
This year's team, you returned a lot of your production that you did last year, including co-conference player of the year, Skylar Vann, and then adding Reagan Beers. What does somebody like that add to you on the court? I mean, of course, everybody's going to look up her numbers, going to see those accolades that she has. Right. She averaged those rebounds and points. And what does she bring to your team this year? And it does kind of seem from the outside looking in, not that you're essentially missing anything, but she does bring up that front court so much.
Well, it's funny, when she came on her recruiting visit, this might be a secret, but both Peyton and Skylar were like, we already looked at the 3-bedroom, you're going to live with us, so you just need to come here right away. So when you have a group of women that are ready for someone like Reagan to come in, that's pretty cool. So she adds a whole different element, and even more than the scoring element, she really brings a defensive element to our game that we really needed on the interior. We had to really game plan against some great centers in last year in the Big 12 and for a lot of years, but in particular last year, there were really great dominant centers in the Big 12. And so we probably could have used a center that could have some one-on-one coverage, and that was something that we really had to game plan against. And so that brings that different element into the game. She shares the ball. She's a great passer too. She's really surprised me in how well she can, her vision and her passing ability, and she can extend range as well, which is nice. I do want to tell you this though, and I don't know, Skylar Vann probably has one of the most incredible stories in sport right now. Because we're coming up on signing period, right? So we've been talking about this. She had 0 Division I offers her senior year in high school. Because she had 0 Division I offers in high school. She had her first Division I offer in February. Then COVID hit. Okay, so then they had an arrangement for her to be able to come here. And so she ended up signing. She came here, played first year, was in COVID year. And then she was 6th player of the year, then got a little better. 6th player of the year, got a little bit better. And last year she was co-player of the year. That doesn't happen.
That doesn't happen in
basketball.
Yeah.
No.
It really doesn't.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. I mean, it's like, it's an absolutely incredible story, but her humility and willingness to just get better and just do what it takes. Because a lot of times in basketball too, you get a lot of players, everybody's quote unquote positionless now, but you saw me rolling my eyes. You might not have, but you guys did. But what she has done is, it's either that or people say, well, this is what I want to do. I just want to make sure that I'm this. And she's like, whatever you need, And
that showed on the court.
And it shows on the court. It shows on the court. And now I think the thing that's really been her probably biggest legacy is her growth in a practice setting. I think at first it was like, I'm practicing. And then it was like, okay, I'm practicing. And now she's competing. Every day she shows up, because we don't have the philosophy of, okay, let's go be an underdog. Like I don't have that in me. I want to show up when you're supposed to show up. Mm-hmm. That's hard. Yeah. That's harder. Right? There's more quote unquote pressure on that. So, but we're Oklahoma. Let's not joke around and be like, oh, we're the underdog. You can't be. You don't get to be. Like, that's not your choice. So, show up every day. And Sky does that.
I feel like that's a bit, in any sport really, but like that's the jump that the good ones take, to be great, or from, where she was and where she wanted to be is, right. It starts with practice, like showing up to practice or showing up to compete, and to get better and obviously hone the things that you want to get done. Kind of just approaching things with a purpose,
Yeah, totally. And not being afraid to fall down. Mm-hmm. I think that's something that we are encouraging so much is failure and then failure recovery, because we're taught so much right now, and we're teaching our kids so much right now that they have to have this right and they have to do this right and they have to make this read, and and everybody has a trainer, and then everybody has this, and then this is supposed to be so perfect, and you're like, no. Like I heard this term the other day and I thought it was just a fascinating term, that athletes right now don't have the physical literacy that they used to. Right? Isn't that impressive? Okay, so meaning you don't know your body as much because you're trained a certain way. Yeah. You don't go out and fall down off your bike, right? Because everybody's wearing a helmet all the time, and I'm not saying don't wear a helmet. I know. Damn, now I'm going to be fired. Don't tell your dad. Tell him not to watch this anymore. I gave him 2 compliments, and now I'm getting in trouble.
There's something to that, though.
But there is. No, there is. There is. And it's the fall down, and it's the go jump on a trampoline and fall down. Do, whatever. Go get in trouble. Get mud. Ruin your stuff. Like, do something, to really understand. And, it's, unless you have brothers, and you're wrestling, or unless our girls tend to do that too, but they're meaner. They're like worse than the boys.
They are.
Yeah, they are. They're awful. But I thought that was really a fascinating comment that you could probably have a whole podcast on, to be honest.
No, we really could break that down. And I think that's a really good way to say it, physical literacy.
Isn't it amazing?
I think there's some other terms that are kind of tossed around that kind of really don't fully encompass all that you're encompassing in that one.
Right.
So
it's like, literacy, maybe it's like reading a book. Like, understanding, everything. That's, I don't know. It took me a second to kind of grasp it.
No, I know. Well, me
it,
too. And then I was like, wow, that's literally the best way I've ever heard that, because they don't, it's just different. And it's not good or bad. It's just different. But, you want them playing a million sports but everything's practice when you're little. It's not go down the street and roll out a ball or go, and then we're worried about sometimes the wrong things. And it's, you're supposed to go play dodgeball. You're supposed to get, a raspberry on your elbow. Like, you're supposed to do that. Like, we don't have to have elbow pads for everything. And I think, that's, you want to, as a parent, it's really hard. I mean, I was in COVID reading a book about the Generation X, right? And I'm sitting there watching my daughter, and she just learned how to ride her bike, and she starts, putting her hands up and then her feet up. And I went to say, don't do it. But, I'm reading the book, and it's like, don't do it. Everybody's they're overprotected in here. She just falls down. And I'm like, I'm dying inside, but all I could say is get up and get back on. And she's crying, and she's looking at me, and guess what she did? She got back on it. And trust me, we don't have the toughest kids, but it's hard. It was harder for me in that instance to let her go than it was for her to fall down and get back up.
Yeah.
And we forget that.
Go ahead, Joe.
I was going to say all the lessons I've learned in backyard football, playing basketball on the streets,
lobby football,
ballroom football, everything that above, you just don't have that. And that's why I think, like you said, physical literacy, and one part of it is people don't know their bodies like they used to.
Right.
You got one bump, you got one bruise, I need to go to treatment. Yeah. And there's something to it, but at the same time, like, you're probably fine.
Yeah, I think that's what's so awesome about sports is like how much you apply it to life, or you apply life to sports. They go hand in hand, you know what I mean? And it is, like you said, it's not good or bad. It's just different.
Totally.
But, what challenges do you think, going into the SEC poses?
Well, what I'm excited about is...
Or excited about, yeah.
Yeah, no, but I mean, I think it's the same thing. I think
I like how you spin it.
I think it's still a challenge, though. I mean, we're playing at South Carolina. I mean, that's different.
Yeah.
That's different. You're playing at LSU. That's different. So I think, you're not just competing against really great teams, because the Big 12 was good. It was really good. And no one will ever pay me enough to say that it wasn't, even though everybody wants to say it was so different. And I mean, and that's in every sport. It was really, really good. Very different than the SEC. And, at SEC Media Day, I was like, I don't know, ask me in February, right? Ask me in February to really understand, because it's, it's different. You play a team here or there, and that's what we've done. We've played a couple different SEC teams in the last couple of years trying to get prepared for that. That's different than night in, night out. Okay, so we do understand that. But even if you're just looking at where teams have finished, you're competing against national champions. I mean, that's what you're doing. So it's exciting. It's a challenge. I mean, this is sometimes our staff laughs at me in recruiting, because I'll sit there and I will tell people what they have to get better at. And they're like, can you just wait until they sign to tell them that? But, I want full transparency, right? This is who we are. But one of the things that you have to constantly talk about is you can't be scared of the SEC. You're scared of it, you can't come here.
Yeah. And
so you got to show up. That doesn't mean that you have to win every single game that you play. It's not about winning. The winning will find you, but it's not like that can't be your ultimate goal, is just to win a game. Yeah. Your ultimate goal has to be that you do all these other things that the winning can't help but find you. And so I think that proposes obviously a major challenge. And if you want to get into it, it's the athleticism. You got to rebound. You have to be able to rebound. You have to be able to find different ways to score the basketball. And you have to be mentally tough enough and connected enough, because you know how loud it gets in a football stadium. You know what? These arenas are sold out for women's basketball. It gets real loud. So you have to be really connected, and you have to be able to read each other. So if you can't find different ways to communicate on every possession, you don't get to pick and choose. It's not just, okay, freshmen talk more. Yeah. Everybody has to talk every day, that it's your habit. And so when you can communicate that way, those challenges, there's still going to be challenges. And you can't hope that somebody's not going to do well, so you do well. Yeah. You got to show up every day. And I think that's the lessons that we're really trying to learn.
I'll always die on the hill that basketball, at least in my opinion, is the sport that you can affect the most as a fan. I really feel like just because of the momentum swings, how close
100%.
you are to the action. I mean, of course, home field advantage in all sports provides, an advantage. But basketball, it's just different in basketball. And that's why it's so crucial for, like you're saying, your team to communicate on the road and for our fans to show up, because it does make a difference. I mean, it makes points difference. I mean, if they did a study, it's probably 3 or 4 points a game can make different with a good home field advantage. So how do you feel the in-game environment here in Norman has improved from last year? And like, where can it, what can be done to improve it? Of course, other than fans continuing to show up.
Well, I think the thing that I've seen that has been, when I first got here, there were very few fans. Part of that's COVID, right? Mm-hmm. And so the ones that I knew, I used their names and told them to stand up. So you, Jerry, stand up and stand up, right? So now when I just look, they're already standing. But I think I could not agree with you more on the impact of the outcome of a game, right? Because trust me, it's a lot more significance. Coaches, officials hear coaches all the time yell at them and say stuff and whatever else. Not me. I'm really nice.
Of course.
Right. Obviously.
With us.
You saw me at the kids' table with my own children one night, so you know how nice I am. But no, honestly, I think there's no question. Well, we'll take a football example, even though I know we're talking basketball, but Texas overturned a call, right? Okay, sorry, I shouldn't have brought that up.
No,
okay,
but
we'll go back to basketball.
Still great.
Yeah, but you go back to basketball, no question.
That happens all the
Student
time.
sections.
That happens all the time.
And not to mention, remember you guys might be too young, but the curtain of death with Michael Phelps standing behind a Speedo, with Arizona State, like the free throws. Students get involved. Why do you think KU men's basketball wins a lot? Right? You look at the different environments that people have, and no question, the fans get into the games. So I do think that, yes, you need more fans. I totally agree with that. Our band is real fun, and our band has gotten more and more engaged as time has gone too. I think bands make a huge difference in women's basketball especially, but no question can they have an impact on the outcome of a game. Now, I will say this too. And there's a study, and I'm going to send you the book. Okay. So it was a study on the Red Sox and Yankees series, when the Red Sox came back and won. Mm-hmm. And they studied the environment. The more positive the fans were, the more they poured into the Red Sox, the more they started winning.
I feel like I've seen that.
The book is called Joy of Sox. Okay. So, and it's this weird science version, but you start reading it and you're like, oh, there's might be really something to that. And so we can, if we come in this great mindset, and we're pouring in, we just can't go south fast. Mm-hmm. You go south fast and it doesn't help. So the more that we pour in, and I think you can see that with our team, because, we had small but mighty at the beginning, and those guys believe, those are your believers, right? And so they were in it. When, this isn't a pride point, but they constantly talk about how many times we've come back from double digits down. Like, that's not like a positive thing that coaches have, right? I'm like, okay, at some point we can stop bringing that up, but whatever. But we don't stop believing, right? And that you could start singing if you wanted to. I'm not going to, but
I'll leave it.
Okay, good. I was looking at you. I was gonna guess you would before you,
but
I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, all of a sudden I was like, geez, what am I saying? I know, right? But I do think that there's an element of how much fans can have an actual impact on the game when they have that, like, you really have that deep belief in who people are.
Yeah, I'm getting excited. You got me fired up. I'm telling you, if you listen to this, like, you'll be fired up to do live, not just the 10 basketball games. So, well, thanks for coming on the show.
No,
we
you guys,
really
thank
appreciate
you.
it. No, that was awesome. Gosh. I'm telling you can apply a lot, like Isaac said, you can apply a lot of that to life.
Yeah.
We're supposed to, right? That's why we do it. It's supposed to be fun.
Mm-hmm. It is.
It's supposed to be fun. They're supposed to be the best years of their entire lives. And, and those of us that aren't still in college, we just get to cheer them on. So it's pretty cool.
It is really cool. And then the exhibition game next Tuesday.
I know, crazy.
That's wild. And then first game Monday, November 4th, 5 p.m. I believe. Against
yes, we
Southern.
have a doubleheader with our men's basketball team.
And the men's at 8. So if you're watching this, head on out. Go watch them.
Awesome.
Tuesday
Thanks,
and then
you
the
guys.
following Monday. No, thanks for coming in.
Yeah.
For everybody watching, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And Catch us next week. Also, want to say thanks for the awesome shirts.
Nice.
Watch more women's basketball. We'll be repping this. But if you're watching, like, comment, subscribe, and catch us next week with another edition of The Family Business. Remember to keep it in the family.